All right, welcome to the show. Soccer fans, stay right where you are. Ali Wagner will be here to break down Argentina's huge win at the World Cup. Plus, we'll look ahead to Mexico's pivotal matchup with Sweden. Speak for yourself starts now. Ow! Great day. It's a great Tuesday. Hello and welcome. Colin Cowherd is off today, so I'm joined by a couple of Super Bowl champs and heavy eaters, Brian Cox and Seth Joyner. They damn near broke me at Mastro's last night. All right, let's begin with the rapper T.I. Yes, you heard me. We're starting with Atlanta's T.I.P. He sat down for an interview on BET with ESPN's Jamel Hill and proclaimed that he's boycotting the NFL and Super Bowl 53, which will be played in Atlanta. Listen to this.
I have made a conscious decision not to support the NFL this year.
Well, explain what went into that decision and why you decided to do that.
Man, I think there's a violation of constitutional rights that's being implemented to minority players who choose to have a peaceful, silent protest. And I know that well, first of all, it's paid patriotism because they're paying the NFL to do the national anthem. So it's not really because you're doing it for the love of country. You're doing it for a check. So,
Yeah.
it's really like you want us to shut up and take what we got coming to us in our communities, and that's not acceptable. And if that's what you think about us, then why should we really spend our money and show our extreme support of your corporation?
All right, T.I. believes NFL owners have violated the constitutional rights of their players by preferring them to stand respectfully during the national anthem or stay in the locker room. Hill, a journalist, did not correct the Trap House rapper. She and the crowd applauded T.I.'s nonsense and seemed to wildly approve of his idea of boycotting the NFL. Hill tweeted, "It will be interesting to see which, if any, Atlanta performers are asked to perform for the Super Bowl, considering T.I.'s influence on Atlanta musicians, will they choose not to perform if asked?" This, I believe, is the true legacy of Colin Kaepernick's anthem protest. He sparked two things: a national debate about the appropriateness of protesting during the national anthem, and two, he convinced black people that the American industry that has produced more black millionaires than any other industry is racist. Kaepernick did not raise awareness on issues related to police brutality. Kaepernick is a looter. He's burning down an industry that empowers black men. Kaepernick is a tool in the war on football. All right, Brian Cox, Seth Joyner, you dined on my money last night. Tell me right now what I'm wrong about here about Kaepernick's legacy and this stupidity that I'm seeing from T.I.
Well, first, I'm gonna take a stand against you saying the nonsense that Jamel Hill let go on. I mean, that's the conversation. So I don't think it's nonsense. You bringing up something. The one thing that I understand about black people more now than I ever did before is our buying power is real. What we did when you look at Black Panther, we can now dictate that you can't treat us any kind of way. That's the first point. But the second thing I want to go here, you said Kaepernick is nonsense. He's trashed it. It wasn't real. Look, he made a sacrifice by calling this a problem. When Muhammad Ali came out against the war,
Muhammad Ali.
Nobody thought that he was, at the time, nobody thought he was Muhammad Ali. Nobody thought he was that
The
at that time.
Vietnam War was an atrocity.
And
the
so,
NFL
and so
is not
this.
an atrocity.
Well,
You're comparing the Vietnam
War. No. I'm
to
not
dealing
saying the
with your
NFL is an atrocity. What I'm saying is the lack of respect and human dignity for black people in this country is a problem. The oppression is as much a problem as Vietnam. Now, he's called the problem to it, but here's what I want to do. When I look at this, Jason, I say this. We've been stuck on this idea of getting into it with the president and politicizing this issue for so long. What can we do to change it? That's where I want to get to today in the conversation. To me, what we can do to change this thing is we can get our community to come together and try to bridge the gap as opposed to being apart and being against each other. So I would like to see players, black players in the NFL, get together with police departments and have some convict versus cops basketball games. Let's get to know the police officer. Not every cop is a bad cop. There are some very fine police officers out there, white, black, and otherwise. The problem is we don't know each other anymore. Back when we were growing up, street patrols, the cops would come and say, I'm gonna call your mom, I'm gonna call your dad. Now it's just straight business. It's just there's no faces to it.
Great suggestion, and I wish Jamel Hill had been interviewing you, because it doesn't sound like you would have been calling for a boycott of the NFL, which has 70% African-American players. This is stupidity, and I'm watching people applaud this stupidity.
Is it stupidity, though?
Boycotting the NFL.
Yes, is it? Because you can't let people treat you any kind of way.
What did NFL owners do?
Okay.
How have they treated us inappropriately, NFL owners?
They turned their back on the players last year, led by Jerry Jones and Bob McNair.
Oh, my God.
They turned their back on the players, and now they say that it's not a cause, it's not a worthy cause.
Brian, stop.
They turned their back on the players.
I'm going to put you in timeout.
I'm just going to go back to the original question, okay?
Please.
Who really cares what the heck T.I. is going to do?
Did you not see
I
people
saw
applauding?
I saw it, and I get your point, and I'm going to get there. But my thing is, T.I. in that interview was like a politician. He was playing to his base. He was playing to those young people that listen to his music, so on and so forth, okay? So at the end of the day, I haven't seen any stadiums in the NFL half full, three-quarters full. They've been full. Every game last year, full to capacity, okay? Nobody's going to care whether T.I. shows up and supports the Atlanta Falcons or not. I don't care, okay? I get his point. He's welcome to his point. But my point is, at the end of the day, the game of football is going to be fine without T.I.
I agree with you there, but this mentality, this arrogance that we have, that football doesn't need to be protected, defended, that we can allow people to do and say anything about football and there will be no repercussions. I reject that. There is a orchestrated war on football. T.I. is a pawn in that, and for T.I. to be sitting up there with a journalist, and particularly with a female journalist in this current environment, as if he has some kind of moral high ground and is being applauded by other black people and a black female journalist, is a joke to me, and it's dangerous for us as black people. An industry that has been so good to us and we're so dominant in that we want to take a dump on it because it feels good, because Colin Kaepernick can't take a knee anymore.
Jason,
that's a joke.
Jason, listen, our conversation last night and over the last couple of weeks has made me think about this situation and look at it in a different light. Because I think when you're young, you can't look at an industry that makes millionaires of people, and you can't look at it objectively and say to yourself, man, that's an industry that needs to be protected. These young guys that are playing now, they could care less about that. The only thing they care about is playing the game. So I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I'm telling you that I can kind of see where you're coming from and where you're going with a lot of the things that you're saying. But you kind of have to separate it because, you've got black professional athletes over here and you've got the black community over here that's struggling and dealing with what they're dealing with. Well, and without activism.
I know the community that I came from, and I know what football did for me. And I know what it did for you and everybody. And so I want more Brian Coxes, more Seth Joiners, more Jason Whitlocks to have the same opportunity that I had rather than us taking a crap on this industry. And we're sitting here letting a rapper, been in and out of jail, got songs about no mediocre, basically any woman that doesn't fit his standard of attractiveness, he don't want nothing to do with. And we sitting up applauding him like he's some kind of thought leader and some sort of important person. We can't fall for the okie doke. And Brian, to sit here and suggest that these NFL owners who were billionaires long before they bought an NFL franchise. Mm-hmm. So I hear, we made them this and that. No, they made their money elsewhere, bought a team as a luxury item and a toy, and yes, it makes some money. But let's don't kid ourselves that somehow they can't survive without us. Trust Paul Allen, Jerry Jones, Bob McNair, Dan, they all gonna be fine without football. But will we? I know I wouldn't be.
I like to say you make a very, very valid point. Two things, though, that I'm going to defend. I don't think that we have to tear down T.I. or any black person that's standing up saying that we have a fiduciary duty to stand up for our people. We can disagree on it, but here's the point that I want to make to a large degree, is we got to get off of this, whether the NFL is right, the NFL is wrong. We are called to action now. Colin Kaepernick, whether you agree, disagree, right, wrong, or otherwise, he called out this issue. Now, how are we going to fix it?
What issue?
That the oppression of black people.
He was the first?
No, but he was the one that took a knee and sacrificed that his job was taken away and he will never see another day in the NFL.
Kaepernick didn't do anything new that hadn't been being done a million times, and his reasons weren't very well articulated, justified, and wouldn't have done it had he not lost his starting quarterback job, and everybody knows this.
No,
everybody
I don't know
pretends
that.
like...
That I don't agree with, because, you know, since Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, Arthur Ashe, the political activists in the world of sports had disappeared. And we had people in the media, wait a minute. We had people in the media who were calling, who is going to be that voice? Who's going to be the Jim Browns of today?
Someone qualified. Cap ain't qualified.
Who are you to say who's qualified? That's not a fair assessment. That ain't right. but that ain't right.
You were a football coach, didn't you? Sometime you're not qualified to play linebacker. We're cutting you. I'm a critic. Colin Kaepernick is not qualified. He can't even stand up and defend himself. He won't even do what you're doing.
He's welcome to his opinion,
right?
Brian. But at the end of the day, what he did was he shed a light on something that people wouldn't even look at.
That's my point.
Here's what he shed a light on: the national anthem. That's what people discuss. And now he has made black people think the NFL is hostile towards us, and has people talking about boycotting the NFL is stupid.
No,
it's an industry I guarantee you, if someone said, you know, we should boycott hip-hop, it denigrates black men and black women and black people continuously. If we sat up here, all three of us, and let's boycott hip-hop, T.I.'s head would explode, and we would be denigrated like, man, hip-hop's been this and that to us. How can we boycott hip-hop? Hip-hop can't hold a candle to what the NFL has done for black men. It can't hold a candle.
If he's shining a light on an issue, okay?
Who?
And if Colin Kaepernick shined a light on an issue.
About the national anthem.
And people, well, see, but that's where things get muddied. That's where things get muddied, because there's a method of how you do it, and there's a message, okay? And the message was hijacked because of the method. You forget a Navy SEAL told him take a knee.
Oh, quit with that, man. These are these talking points you're fed.
Hey,
did the Navy SEAL tell him to sit down and say, I won't respect a flag that oppresses black people?
If he sat down and nobody recognized it for all those weeks, and then all of a sudden when he took a knee, it became a major issue, there you go.
And here's my thing is, again, we've allowed the narrative to shift so much to a political thing. This country. We've allowed it to become such a political football that it's getting punted back and forth, that now, again, there is a call to action. We got to start putting into play where we are identifying how we can objectively interact with police officers, whether they come and speak at our church, whether they come to football youth programs, and we start making dialogue where we're talking. We got to start shifting this from the argument so that it can keep going back and forth to now let's come together to bridge the gap.
There are some
one of the best things.
There are some players in the NFL that are doing this.
Right, and they're not getting covered. And they're not getting covered.
Well, because you know what, the media won't cover stuff like that. They don't want to talk about the feel-good stuff.
Listen,
they want to talk about the guy. They want to talk about the kid that gets pulled over, with a gun in his car.
Look. I love to blast the media, but blaming the media on this is foolish. Colin Kaepernick and a bunch of followers jumped in behind him on a method that distracted from whatever real issue they thought they were pointing out. It's the method, not the media, that's to blame for this. Brian, I wish you would go ahead and step out on a limb and say what you really know you should think. I don't know if you think it, but just know what you should think, because you're saying exactly my point. hey, let's do real things in the community. Let's do real things to bridge the gap, bring people together, and promote change. And you're not, and so just admit, T.I. talking about boycotting the NFL is stupid.
I'm not gonna say that because he has his right.
Okay, he has a right. I got a right to overeat, but it's stupid.
I don't think it's stupid because, you know, when this issue became an issue, the hypocrisy of all the people talking about the anthem and the kneeling, you could go to any stadium in this country in a football game and see people walking, talking, hats on, white people. Walking, talking, not paying any attention to the national anthem.
How much are they getting paid?
They ain't getting paid anything.
Oh, okay.
But they the same ones that are criticizing the guys that are getting paid.
Are they the star?
No, but if we gonna talk about
it, the TV show.
It's hypocrisy.
No. So what? There's a lot of hypocrisy. You know what? I tell people, you know what? You should exercise more and eat better. And then I do some hypocritical things like go to Mastro's and get the twice-baked potato. But it don't make me wrong. It don't make my advice wrong. And so the people that are being hypocritical and sometimes have their hat on, sometimes don't stand in full attention, they're still right when they say, hey, man, protesting during the national anthem is stupid, it's counterproductive, it's not helping anybody, it's divisive, it's the wrong strategy.
Let me ask you a question. Do you know the third verse of the national anthem?
Do they sing it?
No, but it's a racist guy that wrote the national anthem, so why should any black man stand for the national anthem?
Because Brian, let's say
he was talking about kill all the slaves and stuff when he was on the ship in Baltimore.
Let's say this: if I wanted to go down that path with you, under your theory, we should all leave the country.
No, hell no.
No. It was founded by people that owned slaves, Brian.
How's it founded by somebody when there was already people living here?
Brian.
What are you saying?
The United States of America is what it is today. Now, we can go all the way back in history, who did this, who did that. That's the history of the world. Check your Bible, any history book. And so it's not just limited to just white people. And so again, if you go check the history of Africa and the atrocities that go on there and the people in Africa.
But we're in America.
I get it.
Right.
I get it. But we're trying to single out a single group of people as if they're the only people that have ever done anything wrong, and it's silly, it's inappropriate, it doesn't match up with what we're taught in the Bible, it doesn't match up with world history, so let's stop it and deal with the reality. And the reality is we shouldn't be boycotting the NFL. These guys need to get up off their knees and protest. How can you say that? Because I know what the NFL's done for you, and I know what football's done for me, and I know what it's doing for other black men, and we should, an industry that's treating us this well, providing this much influence, power, and putting us on this kind of pedestal, it's one of the few industries that puts us in a positive light. And you want to boycott it?
I agree.
But hip-hop and the music industry, we just give them a free pass and they can do and say anything they want about us, and we're all good with it. That's our black culture.
No.
Oh, they're great. He can come up with a song, No Mediocre, and Jamel Hill's like, oh, I love you. You're the greatest.
I didn't grow up hip-hopping and radioing. That's not my thing. I grew up playing football. And you're right. I owe my life and everything good about my life to the NFL. But it don't mean that it didn't come with some challenges and some issues. And I'm saying that I call those issues and those challenges out. I agree, the NFL has made more black millionaires than any other industry in this country, okay? But yet they're still a company with some flaws. And we can protest. It's American for us to protest and stand
Your wife loves you. I guarantee you there's some flaws there
Ain't no
she'd
doubt.
like to deal with.
Ain't no doubt.
But she still loves you.
Ain't no doubt.
She doesn't want to boycott you. We gotta go.
She boycotts me sometimes.
We gotta go. At Buffalo Wild Wings, we'll admit that we often go overboard with our limited time offerings. We just can't help ourselves. Take our new signature sampler. For $15, you get wings and 3 shareable options like fried pickles or cheese curds. Then there's our aptly named over-the-top nachos, a literal mountain of crispy tortilla chips loaded with your choice of pulled pork or honey barbecue grilled chicken, corn, jalapenos, and more. Then top it all off with our new platinum margarita. Go overboard with us today at Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. Available for a limited time while supplies last. Please drink responsibly. All right, welcome back. Joining me now are Fox soccer analysts Mariano Trujillo and Ali Wagner.
That was well done.
Let's talk some World Cup, where Lionel Messi finally scored a goal today, and Argentina was able to hold on to beat Nigeria. With the win and Iceland's loss to Croatia, Argentina will advance from the group stage. Guys, are you surprised they were able to save their World Cup bid?
I wasn't. I already had them advancing out of the group in my bracket, so thank you, Argentina, for answering the call. I really wasn't. I think, obviously, when you have Messi, you have one of the world's, if not the greatest player, and it was about him getting this unit together. It's not about Sampaoli, their coach. It's about Messi and his ability to rally the troops. At halftime, he was under the tunnel, and he was gathering everyone and being the leader that everyone thought he could be. And he finally got a response out of this group. It was emotional for them.
The knock on Messi has always been he doesn't care that much about the World Cup. That seems to be contradicted by his efforts today.
Well, I think he's been under a lot of pressure because he's the leader. We're expecting him to be the leader, but I'm not sure if he wants to be the leader that we want him to be. He obviously today he show up his skills. He stepped up for his teammates. He scored a goal, but I'm not sure if he's ready to be that leader, the leader we're expecting. For example, a Michael Jordan, a LeBron James, being vocal, being physical. He's a different type of leader. He has a different personality. That role, it's played by Mascherano, and I think together they're good leaders. But today, Lionel Messi did what he's supposed to do: score a goal and move forward.
Listening to Mariano, to me, it sounds like Ronaldo is the better player.
What?
Than
No.
Messi.
What?
These guys are on a collision course, maybe in the quarterfinal. You don't hear that as a knock on Messi and that Ronaldo, the way he's played?
They're completely different players, right? So Ronaldo is a man with ice in his veins that steps up in big moments. Messi, he can step up in big moments like he did today with his goal, but he's also a creator. And the rest of the team kind of sits back and lets him take over. With Ronaldo, the rest of the team provides for him. And so I think they're two different players and the way they go about it.
All right, let's move to a huge matchup tomorrow in Group F with Mexico taking on Sweden. Mexico has been impressive so far, beating Germany and South Korea, and can win the group with a win or a draw tomorrow, but they can actually still be eliminated if they lose and have never won 3 straight World Cup matches. Mariano, you expect Mexico to have a letdown against Sweden?
I think they've been playing really well. I think there has been a lot of pressure from the media, from former players, former coaches. They didn't believe in this team because of the coach, because of Juan Carlos Osorio. He has done an amazing job during the World Cup, and the team is together. They don't care about what's happening outside, but inside. So I believe even though they haven't won 3 straight games in a World Cup, they're going to do that tomorrow, and they're going to advance as first in the group.
Ali, I want to give you the final word on this. Should we as Americans be rooting for Mexico? Are you on Team Landon Donovan, or are you on?
No. I'm not choosing any team Donovan here. I'm for the beauty of the game. I'm for.
Should we be rooting for Mexico?
I'm for celebrating.
You say no?
No, I mean, I like, it's the biggest rivalry. It's okay if you are supporting the United States and you're not supporting Mexico. Actually, it's even better if you want Mexico to be out of the World Cup. I like that because that's good for the rivalry. That's good for the sport. It's just sports. It's just soccer. So I don't believe Landon. I like Kobe Jones. I like Boca Negra. And if it was the other way around, I won't be rooting for the U.S.
I'm sorry. I'm rooting for Mexico.
Hi, I'm Alexi Lawless. I used to play soccer back in the 1900s for the U.S. Now you can find me talking about soccer this summer during the World Cup on Fox. Now through July 15th, you can get daily FIFA World Cup updates from me through your Alexa-enabled device. Just say, Alexa, play the Fox Sports Flash Briefing, and you'll get the latest tournament news straight from Russia. Alexa and Alexi. Now that's a winning team. Don't forget to watch the 2018 FIFA World Cup all tournament long live on Fox and FS1.
All right, welcome back. I'm joined now by Fox Radio host Doug Gottlieb, NBA champion Dante Jones, and the founder of the big league, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to the NBA, where James Harden did what everyone expected last night, beating out LeBron James for the MVP at the NBA Awards. Afterward, amid lots of speculation that LeBron could be joining him in Houston, Harden was asked how the Rockets can improve next year. but wasn't exactly rolling out the red carpet for LeBron.
We were a half away from the finals. So I don't think there's a piece that we need to bring in or to take away. We're great with what we have from top to bottom, from front office to coaching staff to players, personnel. So our main focus is just getting better, getting healthier, and doing what we do. You got to realize, like, you know, this is Chris and PJ and Luke and all our new guys their first year, you know, and so, and look what we got to. Imagine a little bit more time together. It can get pretty scary.
What the hell is he wearing? That would be my first question.
How many Dalmatians were killed to have that jacket?
I just don't think this is the right attitude. You saw Golden State lose a championship and go out and get the second best player in the world. You're looking at Philadelphia doing Embiid, Ben Simmons doing anything they can to get LeBron James. It sounds good. I guess it sounds tough in the locker room, but it's not the right attitude.
I disagree. If they have Chris Paul, do they win Game 7?
No, I think that whole thing. No, I think Golden State was in control of that series, start to finish. It got a little hairy, but no, I don't.
I mean, you do have kind of a predetermined bias against Houston, which I generally do as well. But I will tell you that they were built specifically to beat Golden State, and they nearly did it. And I actually think selling it as twofold. One, if I say I want LeBron, that sells out that we have to get rid of everybody else in the locker room. And two, and maybe this is kind of most important to me, like the makeup of how they are built is around James Harden, around Chris Paul, then spaced out with all those shooters, hybrid players. I think that's the way of the future. I actually agree with him. I told you this yesterday. I don't love watching James Harden play. It's not an enjoyable experience. I don't love the find a mismatch, then pound the hell out of the basketball, drive in, try and draw a foul, flop, the lack of defense. I don't love it. But it's really effective with the way the NBA is played and officiated, so much so they have Chris Paul. It's probably a completely different story today as far as who's an NBA champion.
I totally agree with James Harden because I think they were the better team in that series. Chris Paul going down, if Chris Paul was healthy, they would have pulled that series out. I think a year of experience playing together is going to help them. So I like that attitude of Courtney, just going with my troops and getting better.
I don't play hard to get.
And getting better.
I'm not playing hard to get.
And sometimes more is not enough.
I don't know how you guys can disagree with Whitlock here. I mean, who goes in and says we don't want the best player in the world on our team? I mean, this is a team. You guys are making it sound like it was close with the Warriors. I thought they folded and choked in the last two games. I know they didn't have Chris Paul. Did Golden State have Iguodala?
I know they didn't have Chris Paul. Chris Paul is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
And guess what? The Warriors didn't have Iguodala, the Finals MVP.
Wait. Let's.
How can you not want
Let's have an
LeBron?
honest conversation. Hold on. Let's have an honest conversation. Okay. First of all, there's a lot that goes with LeBron. Okay. Not just LeBron, the player, all the off the court stuff. Just to get LeBron, what has to happen to the rest of their roster?
They got to make some.
Gone.
Yeah?
Gone. PJ Tucker, gone. Trevor Ariza, gone. Everybody gone.
And you need,
maybe Clint Capella's gone.
Have you guys forgotten who Chris Paul's best friend is? Have you forgot that Daryl Morey said this team was obsessed with the Warriors? You don't think Chris Paul would chase his best buddy, LeBron James?
Understand that dynamic of a team. The Warriors are not a collection of just great players. They're a team that works well together.
Yes.
So just because you add talent does not mean that the talent is going to work well together. Chris Paul, LeBron James, and James Harden may not work together. But that over on the other side, that Golden State team, they sacrifice for each other. Just because they can score and they're talented, it does not mean that a team is going to work.
I agree with y'all in terms of 3 ball-dominant players would be a real challenge. But I would take on that challenge. To get LeBron James, I would take on that challenge and try to make it work. It might be a hot mess all during the regular season. But come playoff time, I think LeBron, Chris Paul, and maybe James Harden, they would figure it out.
It's possible. I also think there's a possibility he already knows what the answer is in terms of Houston, right? Like,
oh yeah,
right. He ain't coming. I'm not gonna opine for some dude that's not coming, and then go back and face my boys. I mean, like, look, all those guys, some of whom might be gone from Houston, were there to support him last night.
Definitely.
I think it's probably the least he can do to support him in change.
Well, whether Harden recruits him or not, there is still a chance LeBron ends up staying in Cleveland, which, according to ESPN's Dave McMenamin, some people within the Cavs organization seem to think is getting more likely. McMenamin also adds that LeBron signing another short-term deal to stay with the Cavs might actually suit his personality, explaining, quote, some might say that would mean the circus following James' decision for another 12 months, but when has James shied away from the spotlight? As former Cavs general manager David Griffin once put it, James thrives in chaos. I actually think, I'm not sure what LeBron's going to do, but I would have more respect for him if he stays in Cleveland. And it's not that I don't have respect for him. My respect for him would be enhanced if he stayed in Cleveland, made it work there, maybe get a Kemba Walker, work out things with Dan Gilbert, continue your dominance in the East, don't jump from city to city to city. My respect for LeBron would be enhanced if he stayed.
But all of this could have been avoided if he wanted to stay, right? It would be obvious that he didn't really want to stay. If he wanted to stay, last year they could have had Paul George. All he had to say was, Paul George comes, I'm staying. Staying. Sign as long as you want, I'm staying here. But he hasn't. So it would be backpedaling a little bit. It would be groveling. It would be admitting that there is no...
You would lose respect for him if he stayed.
I think it would depend upon what he said, why he said he was staying. If he was honest about, hey, look, I thought about maybe the grass is green on the other side, then I realized even with all the tumultuous journey we went on last year, we still got to the NBA Finals. I realized this is the best place for me. I would not gain respect for a guy, but I wouldn't lose respect for him either. It's kind of more of a neutral stance.
I wouldn't lose respect for him if he left Cleveland. I think my respect lies...
If he stayed, would it enhance your respect?
It would not enhance my respect because the organizations have the job to do in building a team. I think all dynasties and all teams that have success in winning championships had great players, but had great organizations and great coaching. I think the organization has the responsibility to put the team around him. So if I just say I'm staying and you don't add any pieces to me, you affect my legacy.
They rebuilt the team midstream for the guy.
They rebuilt that team midstream for their organization, for the future of their organization going down the line. It wasn't for LeBron James.
They hurt their future.
Because there was places where you could have traded that pick to build for right now and win a championship to keep him. You just chose to build to be proactive for your future as well and try to be as good as you can.
In fairness, okay, yes, they could have traded that pick. But the contracts they absorbed, it's the highest overall salaries in the NBA. They took on Jordan Clarkson's deal. They took on...
Which is pennies?
Huh?
Which is pennies?
No,
you
it's
took
not.
on George Hill's deal, which
George
is
Hill,
$20 million. You took his deal on, which is $19 million for next year and a $1 million clause for the year after that. You don't have any long-term contracts that you're faced with that you don't have any cap flexibility. So bringing those contracts were for their future. Jordan Clarkson's contract was for their future, a young talent on a sizable contract. George Hill had one more year after that. They didn't add anything that was going to hamper them in their future going forward.
That's not true. Isaiah Thomas was coming off the board as a contract. Instead, they took on another year of George Hill.
But when it comes to respect for LeBron, I gained respect when he went back to Cleveland and won the title. That's what he said he was going to do. Mission accomplished.
Right.
I'd gain more respect for him if he left and built a team that took down the Warriors. The best dynasty since Jordan's Bulls. He can pull that off, I'll gain respect. But staying in Cleveland just to stay and be like a Cleveland guy, I don't see it.
Those two scenarios are worth respect. Building something, not jumping on another team where they're already formulated, but building another team or staying in Cleveland, you can find respect in both sides.
Look, they should have won game one. This was not, it turned into a lopsided series, but to me, it was closer than people realized.
Agreed.
They took a gut punch in game one that they couldn't recover from. J.R. Smith jacked the entire series. I don't think it's unreasonable to think you add a Kemba Walker to this roster and game one next year goes their way and maybe the series goes, they can get into a 7-game series with Golden State, and I'd love to see them in a 7-game series with Golden State because I don't think Golden State's man enough for that LeBron James.
Well, they're not getting there next year, Jason. The Boston Celtics are a far better team.
We'll see.
Boston Celtics didn't have their two best players, took them to Game 7, missed all those threes, were up 12 in the second quarter, and couldn't close the deal. So I don't disagree with you.
He's made it 8 straight years.
I know he has, but he has not faced a check.
I mean, it's 8
No,
straight.
I
got to see it to believe.
We don't know the Celtics
he
are.
He barely got by your Pacers.
I got to see it to believe it. I do something 8 times in a row. Don't doubt me on number 9.
It does make you wonder why not, why leave?
All right, welcome back. We brought Brian Cox out of the penalty box and back onto the show. He's joined by Doug Gottlieb and Dante Jones. All right, let's return to the NBA awards, where the Big O, Oscar Robertson, was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award last night. Aside from his on-court exploits, Robertson was a part of a generation of socially active players in the 1960s and has some strong words when asked about the new wave of socially conscious players.
These people are young people who have families. They see some injustice in the streets and wherever it might be. It might be almost anywhere. And they're stepping out. But but the only thing that really bothers me is that where are the white athletes when this was happening? I mean, it's just not a black athlete problem when you see just injustice in the world. I mean, it's all around you, and just because LeBron steps out, I'm glad he does. I hope some other players, because this is what they believe. It's not. I mean, what do you want players to do? You know, shut up and dribble. You know, I think there's time for them to say what they want to say about life, say about politics and about things in the street and whatnot, about education, which a lot of the players are doing. They're donating their monies back into different causes and whatnot.
Love Big O. He's from Indianapolis, from Crispus Attucks High School. Great guy. I think he's a little bit off here. I think that there are ways beyond complaining to get involved. And so to suggest that white players aren't involved when J.J. Watt, there's a hurricane in the Houston area that impacts him, he raised $37 million, that's a way of being socially active. And so to ask white people to take on our burdens or our perceived burdens, to ask them to get involved the way that we get involved, I think is inappropriate. You know, people have to do what's authentic to them, not what is authentic to me or Oscar Robertson or someone else.
It's the idea that, you know, if being told you have to stand for the flag is forced patriotism, this is forced activism, right? That's what you're saying. Which,
a little bit.
This should not be roll call. And I wouldn't do the J.J. Watt, because who's not going to support hurricane victims? It's more Chris Long, right? Like, look, Chris Long gives away his entire salary, and yet he doesn't. We're talking about LeBron James.
Love Chris Long. Comes from a very wealthy family.
No,
it wasn't the hugest sacrifice. I love Chris Long.
Yes,
I love Howie. That's not a criticism.
Yes, but we would all agree though, when you stand in the NFL with teammates who are protesting, it's much more divisive than when J.J. Watt raises money for hurricane victims. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's a little bit more divisive, absolutely.
But
there's no divisiveness to what J.J. Watt is doing. And again, I'm a part of the belief that you're going to win with positive energy and positive action more than complaints.
Well, I'm with Doug a little bit on the J.J. Watt thing. That's something that was in total. Of course, I live in Houston. I was a part of the hurricane. He did it for the entire community. We're talking about, it's a little bit different. We're talking about white people stepping up for a cause, a black cause. And I think it goes back to just straight morality. Who are you as a person? If we would have had white athletes in the 50 and 60 like Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Bob Cousy, some of the great white players, Sandy Koufax at that time in different sports, stand up, we'd be in a better place from a race standpoint today, I think.
Brian, I just want to be careful about that people that don't support a particular cause, now they're immoral or their moral character is lacking.
That's
really unfair.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying today is a moral issue. Like, for instance, the Me Too movement. There have been a lot of white men and black men that stepped out for the Me Too movement to say, hey, there's something wrong with this. We need to call order. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if we would have had the same consciousness in the 50s and 60s, we'd be furthermore in the race debate today as we sit. And when you call to it now, you say we got Chris Long, we got Steve Kerr, we got Greg Popovich that stand up and stand out for black people, because right is right, wrong is wrong. And all I'm saying is, and I think to Oscar Robertson's point, we need more people to stand up to say, from a moral standpoint, hey, that's not right. We need to do better. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that.
And Dante, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you go. But some people's morality might compel them to say, hey, the Michael Brown situation in Ferguson, you all making him a hero and saying he's a victim, their morality might say that's inappropriate and wrong. He got into a confrontation with a policeman, touched his gun, and had an incident at a convenience store earlier. And so again, you know, all these situations feel different to different people and don't interpret them all the same way that you do, I do, Oscar Robertson does. so it's a slippery slope.
Even in that situation, I think we all agree that he didn't deserve to die. And what Oscar
I don't
Robertson
think you can say we all agree on that.
He
There's
did.
people that
He
justifiably.
morally.
Hold on. The Obama administration, Eric Holder, did an investigation, and they didn't come to that conclusion.
He morally did not deserve to die. Point blank. But what Oscar is saying is that as athletes, we are socially and morally responsible to speak out on the issues that affect us and the people we care about. So white athletes have the responsibility to learn about the people that they engage with, the people that they care about in their locker rooms, their friends. They have that responsibility to learn. They don't have the responsibility to do the same thing we do, but if you care about me as a teammate and as a person, you have the responsibility to say enough is enough sometimes and be morally responsible to say, you know what, we need to stop doing things in this fashion.
I don't know who deserves to die, but when you attack a police officer in his car, there's an expected result that's not going to result in a good thing. I mean, or in Charlotte where people where people were. Well,
Eric Holder in the Attorney General's
Eric
office
said he deserved to die.
No, he said the police's actions was justified. That's just factual.
So killing a kid is justified?
Look, man, if you put your hand on it, look, you got kids. Now, I'm telling you, if they put their hands on a policeman's gun.
But if you tell me about that, my son, we're going to have a problem regardless of the fact. If you tell me my son deserved to die because he may have made a mistake, he didn't deserve to die. We could have handled this in a different capacity.
Well, no one deserves to die.
Well, I will say this. Clearly, when the State Department came out and said that it was justified, okay, shoot him. Do you have to kill him? And I think that's the issue. No, listen.
Listen, the question is, should white athletes stand with black athletes? And having been a white athlete, it's really, really hard, okay? Because there is no room for...
Why is it hard?
It's hard because I'm not black, so I can't fully grasp the black experience when I have
So you don't have enough friends and you don't have enough people you hang out with to...
Of course I can try and learn, okay? But to be an activist, okay, to take a stance on something. Do I think that there are cops on a power trip? Sure, absolutely. I've been treated poorly by a cop on a power trip. On the other hand, there are some people that act terribly towards police officers when a cop hasn't done anything wrong. There are lots of issues. There's too many guns. There's not enough education. You name it. But the problem is that if you stand up and you support, if I don't support you, suddenly now there's something wrong with me morally. And
we got to end on this note. We got to end on this note. When you start hey, white people, come join us, and you evaluate our cause, you do the homework on us, and you stand up for what you believe in. Well, let's say a white person does that, and then jumps to the conclusion, you know what, black people, the problem here is single parenthood. And I'm going to make my stand about single parenthood. Their morality may compel them to do that rather than get upset about Michael Brown or whatever the incident of the day is. And so you got to be willing to deal with all the ramifications of what you're asking for. And I don't think we're ready for that. I think we want them to stand up on things that we feel comfortable and good about and portray white people in a bad light. But if they stand up and say, you know what about what you're doing? Then we get very uncomfortable, call them racist, and then say, mind your own business, stay out of it. So Oscar Robertson, you got to be careful what you ask for. Welcome back. Seth joined us here for Last Call. The NFL Network just revealed its top 10 best players, and only 2 guys play on defense. Seth, are defensive players undervalued?
There's no doubt about it that is the case. And all you have to do is go back and look at the rules changes over the years, and that was kind of a foreshadowing of the fact that, that defensive players were going to be, devalued. You can also look at the salaries. I mean, all the top players are on the offensive side of the ball.
It's ridiculous, and it's changing the essence of football. Bring back Dick Butkus.